What's up, everybody, and welcome to The Word on Woodward. I hope you all are enjoying your lunch hours here on this great Thursday, and we have a huge show planned for you as always. So I'm going to get right into this one and bring in my co-host, Art Regner. Art, how you doing today? I know that you're super excited for today's show. We've got so much exciting stuff.
It really is. It's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of stuff is happening. You would think, where we're at right now, maybe a little bit of a slowdown, but we will never be at a loss for words, Danielle. I'm really looking forward to today's program. A lot of great guests and, my two all-time favorite broadcasters, Dan Dickerson and, of course, Kenny Cal are going to join us. So it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was wondering how you're going to handle that one. Every day you're kind of saying one of them is your favorite broadcaster, and now you've got both of them on today's show. So you might be in for it.
Well, I'll tell you what, Danielle, I'll say diplomatically, whomever is on, they're my favorite at the time.
So aside from your two favorite broadcasters, we've also got exclusive interviews with John Morosi, Justin Applicator, and Matt Boyd. So it's going to be a great show, like I said, and a reminder that right after today's show at 2 p.m., you can play Hockeytown Trivia on the District Detroit app. All you got to do is download the app. You'll see the District Detroit the Hockeytown Trivia banner right there. So you just click that, and that is at 2 p.m. today, and you'll play that right after you're done watching The Word on Woodward. And what do you say we get into this, Art, and we get into our Big Three presented by Chevy. The Big Three today is also really exciting. And to kick things off, I know that we've all been missing sports, but our friends at Fox Sports Detroit have been so great in giving us these classic Red Wings and Tigers games and even some Pistons games on Fox Sports Detroit. So the next Tigers game will be an 84 World Series Game 5 this Sunday on May 3rd. So I'm really looking forward to all of the games that they have slated. We've also got the Fidrich Monday Night in Baseball, which is going to be May 4th, the Jack Morris no-hitter, which is going to air on May 5th, and the Verlander no-hitter, which is going to air May 6th. Now, that one was in 2012. So, the Verlander no-hitter is definitely a game that I'm really excited about, Art.
Well, certainly. I mean, anytime a no-hitter, the Tigers, since 1901, charter member of the American League, they've had many, many great players. And, not a whole lot of no-hitters, but then again, really, which team does have a lot, unless you had Nolan Ryan or somebody on your roster. So I'm really looking forward to all the no-hitters. But the game that I am looking forward to, without question, is the Fidrich game. And the reason is back then, baseball was Saturday afternoon was a national game. For me, it was Kirk Gowdy and Tony Kubek. And then Monday night became a thing. And those were the only two national games that you got all week. So if you really wanted to see another team or the Big Red Machine, which was the Cincinnati Redlegs or something like that. But the reason why Monday night was so big, and I also remember this, is that they had, I don't know how many seasons on Monday Night Baseball, but they would have a celebrity guest would come in and sit in with Tony and Kurt. And I remember one time George C. Scott, the actor, won an Oscar for Patton, was born in Virginia, but raised in Detroit and was a super, super huge Tigers fan. And he came on and he was dressed in a Tigers road uniform, which back then was the 70s style with the band, Detroit across the chest. And, I thought, wow, that's really cool. And he was really talking about it. But that kind of made Monday Night Baseball appointment viewing. And so when Fidrich was on, what was really interesting about that game, and I encourage everybody to watch all these games, but especially that Fidrich game, because he became a major media social phenomena. Monday Night Baseball, if I can get it, was Twitter, it was Facebook, it was Instagram, everything all wrapped up into one. That was what everybody was watching. And as that game progressed, and it was against the Yankees, which was good, and Fidrich talking to the baseball and going off the mound and doing his antics, he went from being just a beloved character in Detroit to being a national celebrity in the span of that baseball game. And you can tell by the announcers, they were just so enthralled with him. And so they were kind of, for lack of a better term, falling in love with him too. So that's the game I'm really looking forward to. And I know it's a little bit later down, but that Maglio Ordonez home run to sweep the A's, that in 2006. I mean, that's something too. That I'm really, really looking forward to. And I watched that game with a bunch of non-baseball fans. They just weren't into sports, and But even they knew that was something special. So, this is great. I mean, this is something we need. Relive some old memories, everyone feeling good, watching the Tigers, watching the Red Wings, watching the Pistons, especially now the Pistons have been getting trashed a little bit in this Michael Jordan thing, which I refuse to watch, by the way. So anyway, so it's cool. I'm happy. I'm excited. I can't get enough of it. I hope, depending on how this turns out, Fox has an unlimited vault. I want to see virtually every single Tigers, Red Wings, Pistons games, just bombard me with them.
Well, lucky for you, Art, I actually want to make a correction to what I said earlier. Verlander's no-hitter was in 2007. I said 2012, but there is a reason I have 2012 on my mind. It's because FSD has actually expanded their coverage. So, Art, you're going to have a lot more baseball to watch. They're going to show some games from the 2012 season and then some all-star games as well. So a lot of great games in there, and all-star games are always fun to watch, especially in baseball.
Well, yeah, certainly. Obviously the All-Star game that was at Tiger Stadium where Reggie Jackson hits the light tower, Roberto Clemente played in that game, obviously Al Kaline. So there's a lot of great memories. All-Star games were great back then because there wasn't interleague play. So you would see these National League stars if you were an American League fan like I was for the first time. And I know interleague play kind of has taken a little bit away from that because you see these guys play in Detroit, every 3 or 4 years. I don't know how that thing breaks down, but all-star games are the best. And let's be honest, baseball's all-star game is the most competitive, but I will say, I really like what hockey did with that 3-on-3 tournament. I think that has made that all-star game the second best right behind Major League Baseball.
I have to agree with you there, Art. And you guys, you saw the schedules there. And make sure you tune in to Fox Sports Detroit. So much fun to be had watching all of these classic games. We're going to move on to our second story in the Big Three. And this one, we're going to bounce back over to the Red Wings and what they're doing in the community. And this one's really cool because the NHL is putting on the Gaming Challenge, which includes players from all of the NHL teams, even Seattle, actually. And these players are going to battle it out in some NHL video game battles here. And Madison Bowie and Anthony Mantha are going to represent the Red Wings in this challenge. And the challenge is actually a fundraiser to raise money for COVID-19 and help with that relief. So it's a great, great cause. And I really hope Anthony Mantha and Madison Bowie have been practicing their, I don't even know how you would word this, their video gaming skills. And I hope they're ready to take on the rest of the league.
Well, as you know, Madison Bowie, whom I sometimes call Travis, I don't know why, but Madison Bowie, great guy, and of course, Anthony Mantha. I just have a word for Big Tony because I know he watches this show. He's a big fan of mine, believe it or not. BT, do not fight. Do not drop the gloves. Let Madison take care of that stuff. I know it's a virtual game, but you've just got to stay healthy, unless, of course, it's Jake Muzzin. If it's Jake Muzzin, buddy, you know what I'm talking about. Open season on him, my friend. But aside from that, please, BT, listen to me. Maintain. We need you out on the ice, even in a virtual game. And, again, tip my cap. This is just great. Everyone rallying together, COVID-19. We could go on. We could talk, like my new expression for some reason is, and I don't know where I got it, a month of Sundays about the way the community, the way Major League Baseball, the way hockey, basketball, NFL, and just society in general have really stepped up and helping each other. We're all in this together, truly. Together we stay strong. So I tip my cap, but BT, do not drop the gloves, please.
No virtual injuries, but Art, you actually had the perfect segue there into our third story for the Big Three about our community coming together, especially here in Detroit. So I'm going to introduce this video that all four of our professional sports teams have been working on with a very, very powerful message.
In this city, quiet doesn't feel right. We're used to making noise, making buildings shake.
Crowd up and making noise now. Here's Barry up the middle, 35, cuts to the right, 30, cuts it back over the middle, 20.
Making memories. In Detroit, the moments that ring loudest and we remember most are those we shared together. And the athletes who've earned a special place in our hearts are those that share our values. Hard work.
Woodward to Blake for a dynamite dunk.
Toughness. Consistency. But when the game stopped and things got quiet, we didn't forget our values, and we didn't lose our spirit. It lives on in the heroes who always rise to the occasion, the men and women who keep this city going and whose teamwork and dedication have given us new reasons to cheer. One day, we'll be in the same arena, stadium, or ballpark, and it will feel good to root for the home team. We don't say we'll be back together because we are always together. You cheered for us, we cheer for you.
What an amazing message, Art. I have to say, the first time that I watched that video, it actually did bring a tear to my eye, because we know how much happiness sports brings people, and it's sad to see them kind of in a pause right now. But our healthcare workers and those people that are working the front lines and keeping this all going for us, they are the real heroes right now.
Well, certainly. I mean, again, we could go on and on and on about it. And, that was really powerful. I've always said this, that, Detroit might not be the most cosmopolitan city in America. And perhaps our culture is based on our sports teams. But, Danielle, I've said this before, too, is that all you need to do is look at how many ex-athletes, even if they're traded from Detroit, come back here and make this their home. It's because we embrace them. And obviously during this COVID-19 pandemic, they've embraced us too. And they're right in there in the front lines and hanging out and doing whatever they can. We're going to talk to Justin Abdicator, who's been really instrumental in a lot of things. And, Matt Boyd too. I mean, those two guys, wow. I mean, talk about stepping up. And so it just, sometimes I get a little too philosophical. I have to calm myself down a little bit, but it kind of renews my faith in mankind or the human spirit. And we're seeing that every day. And so no matter how low you feel, and I know a lot of people are going through some tough times, but and I encourage everybody, the communication, pick up the phone, talk to buddies, see how everyone's doing. But, to know that, you've got friends everywhere, especially here in Detroit. I know we get knocked a lot and, about Southeast Michigan and all that kind of stuff. But in adverse times, Detroiters, Michiganders, or Michiganians, however you want to say it, we all band together. We really do. And, so, when everybody starts trying to trash us or something, all you have to do is look at the spirit of this community, the way people rally, the way people are willing, in an economically depressed time, to open up their pocketbooks and help somebody in need. That's what Detroit, that's what Michigan, that's what this is all about. And I applaud each and every one of us, because I think we're all stepping up and doing it. And especially the Tigers, especially the Red Wings, the Lions, and the Pistons. That's what it's about. That's Detroit pride. That's Detroit spirit. That's Together Detroit. We're seeing it every single day, and we're all involved in it. And way to go.
Very, very well said, Art. I'm not even sure how I can follow that one up, except for saying thank you to everyone that is out there fighting for us every single day right now. As Art said, we can't even talk about it enough. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And also a big thank you to our friends at Chevy for bringing us the Big Three segment. When our country is faced with adversity, we find a way to get through it. Chevrolet is committed to helping you in any way we can, from answering your vehicle questions related to service and everything in between. Visit ChevyCares.com to learn more. Now we're going to move on to our mailbag segment, delivered to you by Little Caesars. And we've got a very special guest for this one. It is Dan Dickerson, the radio voice of the Detroit Tigers. He's joining us for today's mailbag. Dan, you excited for today?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Always good to join you guys.
Yeah, and we were talking about some of these classic games that they're airing on Fox Sports Detroit, and lots of Tigers games coming up. Which one are you most looking forward to?
Art picked the one, and that Fidrich game ran, I want to say, on MLB Network a couple of weeks ago. And ordered a ton. Sometimes it's just hard to watch because you're reminded how much you miss it. But that Fidrich game, Art is exactly right. That game, to this day, is one of the great games in Tigers history, just because it, again, put Fidrich on the map. Remember, this guy got called the first crowd. By that time, he was packing the ballpark all on his own. I loved watching that game. I loved hearing the national announcers, like Art said, falling in love with this guy that we were all falling in love with. And the energy from that game is phenomenal. The post-game interview, stick around to the end because the post-game interview is awesome.
And really, Double D, what a wonderful man Mark Fidrich was. He truly was. You could almost say because of injuries, he was almost a one-hit wonder. But he really wasn't, because his personality, he just exuded enthusiasm. He was such a kind and generous man that, he wasn't a one-hit wonder. I mean, he was a Detroiter, he embraced everything. And just a great, great guy. I think I might have told this story. I played in a celebrity softball game, believe it or not, at Comerica Park, Red Wings versus Tigers. And I was part of the Red Wings celebrity team. And Fidrich was on the other team, and he wanted me to sign a baseball. And I said, buddy, you don't want me to sign a baseball. I was embarrassed. And he insisted. He said, you're part of the team. I mean, it was really kind of a cool moment. I think I've already told that. But, that's just the type of guy he was. He was just that type of man. And that's right. That game, without a doubt, is, his kind of national coming out party. And Double D's exactly right. We already knew what he was all about. I mean, and the Tigers weren't very good. And they were every game that he pitched at Tiger Stadium was 56,000 or 54,000, whatever the old ballpark held. Just great. Yeah. It really was. Yeah. It really was for that team. But that's the impact that Mark Fidrich had.
And Danielle, I'd have to say that some of the other 2006 postseason series, those first two rounds, think of all the memories out of the Yankee series. Whether it was Zamaya coming out in the shadows in Game 2 and blowing away 5 straight Yankees when they had to win, the Kenny Rogers game when they came back home. He'd had no success against the Yankees in his career, no success against the guys in that lineup. That was a great game. I mean, the post-game celebration after Game 4 against the Yankees, the whole Oakland series. I mean, there are so many memories just from those two rounds. I'm really looking forward to seeing some of those games.
I am too. And you guys have me sold on watching. Sorry, Art. I'm just saying, you guys have me sold off that Fidrich game. I'm going to watch that Monday night baseball.
But Fidrich, for sure. That Yankee series, though, what was great about that, it started in New York, and I was doing my radio show back then with Doug Karsh, who was my partner, and we were on the subway going to Yankee Stadium, and it was just packed with Yankee fans, and they were just knocking Detroit right and left. The Tigers, why do we even have to play them? We'll get by them. And I looked at Doug, and I said, this is why everyone hates Yankee fans. And Doug thought that we were going to get mugged because, I'm pretty loud, as you can tell. But, that was just a great series. They lost that first game, and then they came back, and the way they came back, typical Detroit, though. People counting them out, dropped the first game, which was close, and then came back and won that series. Made me feel great.
Real quickly, Daniela, quick anecdote from what Art was saying. Remember, this is a 95-win Tigers team against a 97-win Yankees team. 2 games different, but because how the Tigers had collapsed at the end, Michael Kay, Yankees broadcaster, still Yankees broadcaster, came up to Jim and I standing behind the batting cage before Game 1, and with just a little kind of smirk on his face, he said, really, guys? You think you have a chance in this series? It's like, oh, I don't know, Mr. K. I hope so. Golly. I'll never forget that.
That is such a great story. Did you say anything to him after the series? You had to have said something to him after the series.
Oh, we were looking for him after Game 4. We were looking for him after Game 4. He was nowhere to be found.
Of course. Let's move on to our fan questions that we got for you guys today. And the first one is for you, Dan. And this is about our current Tigers here. Which of the Tigers free agent signings are you most excited to see this coming season?
It's a great question, and it's something that we talked about a lot in the spring, because you really got the sense of how much those veterans, even though there wasn't that big, flashy free agent signing, these were mostly one-year deals, but they had added so much in the spring. And I think you have to start with Austin Romine because of the impact of veteran catchers, never been a number one guy, really, was going to be the number one guy, the impact that he was having on the staff. I would start with him. But Scope and Crone on the right side of the infield, both decent defenders, and the power they added was huge for this lineup. Cameron Maybin was a late signing, but you could just tell the way he worked with younger players was having an impact. That personality is so outgoing and big and he's been around, and he made improvements. He changes in his swing last year that resulted in his best power numbers of his career. He was having an impact on young defenders. Think of the guys who were coming over from the minor league camp, the Riley Greens and the Parker Meadows, and he was having conversations with those. And then, Ivan Nova was one of those signings you're like, the numbers don't look great. But here's the thing about Ivan Nova. He has learned how to be a guy who can make 30 to 35 starts or 34 starts a year for the last 3 years. The numbers may not be great, quote unquote, but he's learned how to be a durable pitcher. There's great value in that. He's solid. You know what you're going to get. And the impact that he could have, again, on younger pitchers, just saying, hey, here's how I've learned to prepare. Here's how I go about my business. That was going to have an impact, and will have when the season gets started, an impact on the younger pitchers. So that was one of those signs you're like, okay, that's solid. But he really, I thought, was going to have a big impact on some of the younger guys.
Yes, I have to say I was overall impressed with what the Tigers did in this offseason. And I think if these guys live up to what they're supposed to, even from their numbers from the season before, like CJ Cron and Jonathan Scope, then the Tigers are really going to have something going there on both sides of the ball, really, from hitting and defense as well. So we will move on to the next question, which is now Red Wings related. This is Andy from Farmington. He asked, are there any free agent targets that the Red Wings are looking to sign in this coming offseason?
Well, first of all, we don't know exactly when the offseason is going to be because, the league is going to do everything in their power to continue to play games and try to finish the regular season and have a playoff format. But I will say this. I think Steve Yzerman improved last year. He is looking for short-term help at this point. The Red Wings are not in a position to go out and make the big signings that we're so used to, a decade or so ago. I would say that without question, they're going to sign a veteran goaltender. And there's a lot of veteran goaltenders out there. But I would say a guy like Thomas Greiss or Anton, I always mess up, Kodobin, who played for Dallas and then was played for Boston for all those years, Yaroslav Halak. I mean, there's some big name goalies that are out there, but I think you have to understand that Steve is also looking for term, meaning that he doesn't want to sign guys for more than a year or two. At the most. And I think last year with its 3 signings, you saw that everybody got basically a 2-year deal. He's not going to try to go over that unless it's somebody he thinks can really help the team. I think he feels they're not there right now. So definitely a free agent goalie. I think Eric Gustafson, who is a defenseman who plays for Calgary now, or pardon me, to our Canadian audience, Calgary, he was traded from Chicago at the trade deadline to Calgary. So they're probably not going to want to let him go if they traded for him, but I know that's somebody the Red Wings covet. And then looking, a guy I always liked and I can't understand, he played for Buffalo. They let him go. They waived him. They gave him an outright release. Zach Bogosian, who was then finished out with Tampa Bay. I've always found him intriguing. I always, for years, I always wanted the Red Wings to trade for him when he was with Winnipeg. Maybe somebody like that. As far as forwards go, I think they're pretty happy. Maybe they like Sam Gagner, but I think he might want to stay out west. So, a guy I really like, but he was also traded by the Kings to the Vancouver Canucks, would be a guy like Tyler Toffoli or somebody like that. So I really think if you're really looking at it, I think they're going to concentrate without question. They're going to get a free agent goaltender. They're going to get a veteran goaltender to play along with Jonathan Bernier. And then I think they're going to go defense. I think primarily they'd like to get a right-handed shooting defenseman and a left-handed shooting defenseman. The guy that they really like, from what I've heard, is Gustafson.
All right, Dan, the next question. We've got one for you here, and this is also Tigers related. So we've got John from Highland asked, are there any position players in the minors that we should be excited about?
I think what we learned in spring training, Daniela, everybody knew about the pitching talent that's in the minor leagues and is close to the major leagues. And that's why people were so excited that Mize, Manning, Skubal, I would even include Alex Faedo in that group, all close to the major leagues. But we learned in spring training there are some position player prospects that maybe have been, if not overlooked, they're certainly not getting the attention of some of the big names on the pitching side. And I would start with a couple of guys that made the most plate appearances in the spring training among the rookies. And that was Riley Green. Everybody knows about him, last year's #1 pick, 5th overall, who didn't look overmatched. And I know it wasn't against always major leaguers, but some of those at-bats were against major leaguers. We had 18 plate appearances, not even quote unquote in camp. And Riley Green came over and made an impact. A couple of home runs, lots of walks, great plate discipline, impressed everybody. And then Cody Clemens, I think, is one that people, they know the name, but I think his prospect status is a little bit below where, you know, people were kind of hoping he might be. He got more plate appearances than Riley Green did because Ron Gardenhire just liked watching him play. Now, he was a Texas Longhorn, and Gardy was a little biased in his appraisal of him. But he said, look, this guy does everything right. He knows how to play the game, and he could hit a little bit. So I would say Cody Clemens is definitely somebody to keep an eye on. And then I would just – the others I would look at defensively. You need good defenders at Comerica Park, right? Jose Azocar and Hill both are going to be terrific defenders. And Derek Hill is as good a center fielder. Many feel he could be one of the best center fielders in the league right now if he played in the major leagues. So defensively, those two guys. And then Parker Meadows, you have to talk about him because for all the rough, stretches that he had last year, everybody agrees his upside is phenomenal. And the last guy I would say is Isaac Paredes because he's probably the best hitting prospect closest to the major leagues. And Isaac Paredes, we didn't see a lot in the spring, but don't forget about him because that's a guy who could be an impact bat within a year.
Dan, I did want to follow that up, and I think you kind of answered it there. And I know this question is tough right now because we just don't know when the season is going to start up. But if things were as normal for this season, which one of those prospects do you think is closest to being in Detroit?
That's a great question, but I would probably go with Paredes. And then because Derek Hill did make an impression defensively, if he can show that he can hit enough. He was at AA last year. Offense has been the biggest question with him, not defense. But if he shows he can hit and has made improvements offensively, that's a guy who could be, because of his abilities defensively. Again, center field at Comerica Park may be the most important defensive position that you can have when you're playing 81 games in that ballpark because of the room out there. Derek Hill can patrol that as well as anybody. To have him and Jacoby Jones out there in the outfield during the season would be really something to watch. He has to show that he can hit, but I would put Derek Hill pretty far up there.
All right, with this last question, you guys, it's John from Berkeley, and we're going to have some fun with this one. Art, you're starting it off. What would your walk-up song be? Did you have a walk-up song when you played in the celebrity softball game there? What was it?
Yeah. It was Who the Heck Are You? An original composition by me. But anyway, I actually have two. One that I think is really a really good one. And, it was written, I believe, in like 1783, but it's called A Little Night Music by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. And it is a real rocker for a thing that was written in the 18th century. But I check it out. I mean, it's like the top 40 of classical tunes. I mean, but it really wake up a crowd. And then of course, My Heart Belongs to American Songstress, which I believe is a word, Taylor Swift. And I love that song, Shake It Off, because the haters are going to hate. And we've all been down that road before when you do what we do. So those are my two walk-up songs.
All right, Dan, I'm not sure how you're going to top that one, but go ahead.
I always think of, I'm not sure this is really walk-up music, but I just think of songs that I always go to when I'm I don't know, in the car. We've just landed at 3-4 o'clock in the morning, and I've got to get home, and I've got to keep my blood pumping. I always go to live music, and so I always start with Stevie Ray Vaughan, "The Sky is Crying." One of the great recordings ever, and it was literally from his last weekend, the version I'm thinking of, the last weekend before he tragically died in that helicopter crash. That's an amazing song. The guitar work, I'm a big guitar work gets me. And then probably Allman Brothers' "One Way Out." Again, these aren't really great walk-up songs. They're just great music. And I'd want to give them a little pub, I guess, going up to home plate.
Well, we had to pick
Those
our
are great
walk-up
tunes,
songs for a little. We had to pick our walk-up songs for a little work activity here, like a team bonding thing. And I might age you guys a little bit with this one because I don't even know if you'll know who he is, but Grizz, "Can't Hold Me Down" would definitely be my walk-up song. And he is from Detroit, an electronic artist, but he plays a ton of instruments. So he's kind of in his own category. It's really cool. So you guys should check him out too, because that would be my walk-up song.
Do you go to Grizzmas every year?
Oh my gosh, you know Grizmas. Yes, I do.
My son goes every year.
Oh, that's awesome. We'll have to get you two to go.
Absolutely.
Wow,
He'd be mortified.
From Mozart to Grizz, I mean, it's better.
Basically the same, right, Art?
Yeah, right, exactly. Mozart, Grizz, I mean, both household names.
Well, Dan, I want to thank you so much for joining us today for the mailbag segment. That was great. And it's always great to have you. And you will definitely be back soon.
All right. Look forward to seeing you guys soon. Always enjoy it.
See you, WB.
Thanks again, Dan. And that is our mailbag segment delivered by our friends at Little Caesars. The Little Caesars proudly presents their hot and ready pepperoni cheeser. You get a large pizza topped with classic pepperoni, fresh mozzarella, and a toasted Parmesan and Asiago cheese crust for just $7. Try our no-contact pizza portal or delivery from Little Caesars. And you guys, we still have a jam-packed show for you. We've got a lot coming up. We're going to catch up with Carly in just a couple of seconds here, and we've got exclusive interviews with John Morosi, Justin Ablocator, and so much more. We're going to take some questions from you. So I do want to remind you to be active on social media if you're watching. Ask your questions. Carly Johnston is out there manning all of our social media accounts because we want to hear from you. We want to answer your questions later in the show. But right now, it is time to catch up with Carly, thanks to our friends at Meijer.
Thanks, Daniela. What's up, everyone? Welcome to Catching Up with Carly, presented by Meijer. Today, I am joined by not one, but two boys, Matthew and Ashley Boyd. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us on.
Awesome. How's it going over there in the Boyd household with the kids during this quarantine?
It's going good. It's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun, you know. It's nice to have a few minutes, you know, to ourselves. I mean, got the kids on the monitor right now and everything, but you know, it's fun. It's nice enjoying time with family and getting to be together, and you know, just actually getting to help take care of our kids. I feel like I'm gone so much usually, so you know, Ashley's a champion doing everything she does, so glad to help out.
Ashley, how is it having him home this much?
You know, it was an adjustment, but now I think we got a good rhythm. We really are tag teaming it with the kids and the meals and the bath time and just everything with the little ones. It's a lot. So it's very nice to have all the help.
I love it. I'm sure you guys are enjoying that quality family time together. Matt, have you been able to train at home much?
I have. You know, it's actually kind of been nice when the park closed down and I was able to sneak down there and load up my pickup with a bunch of the equipment from the weight room. So we have an unfinished basement here with some higher ceilings and a big concrete wall. So I've been able to, you know, just get after it down there. You know, we get kind of creative with our workouts, but really push myself down there and able to throw some stuff up against the wall, some weighted balls and med balls and whatnot. So it's been a lot of fun. It's cool just getting to go down there. You know, working out wise, It's kind of been nice because our little guy sleeps when I work out usually during that time frame. So Mira comes down, our daughter, and we've been listening to the Frozen soundtrack every single time we work out. So I think I've got it by memory now.
It's really motivating.
Yeah, really motivating. She just runs around the whole time. So it's a real good time.
All right, what's your favorite Frozen song? I have to know.
Oh man, Into the Unknown. I think I know it verbatim now. I like the Panic at the Disco version though a little better because we get to that point by the end of the workout. We listen to the whole album, so we're on that level.
That's incredible. Nat, what were you looking forward to starting this season?
Oh, just getting back at Comerica and getting in front of the fans. It's a bummer with what happened, but this too will pass. It's going to be fun. I'm praying that we get a chance to play in Comerica this year. Baseball in general will be great wherever it is, but it'd be great to be in Comerica, back in our city, back in front of the best fans, and we're just counting the days until that will happen. But we're all excited to get baseball back in some capacity.
Yeah, I know you guys are, and us fans, we are excited as well. And as Detroit's MLB Players Association representative, how have you felt added pressure to check up on your teammates and their well-being during this time?
I wouldn't say added pressure, but we have been staying in contact. We've got a good team group thread that has been going, through the off season, and we're a pretty close-knit group. Even the guys that joined up this year with Scopey and Mabes and Romine and Crony, and as well as numerous others. They just kind of meshed with us, and we got a tight squad. So we've all been staying in contact, and it's just taking it a day at a time, hoping this will pass sooner than later, and just waiting and making the days count until that time comes when we do get to toe it up, back in the old English D together as a team.
Love it. Okay, now let's shift gears and talk about your nonprofit, Kingdom Home, which is absolutely incredible. Can you two expand on this for me?
You got it. You got this.
So Matt and I started Kingdom Home, it was about 2.5 years ago now, in partnership with the Children's Home in Uganda. And now we've grown to 4 children's homes there. And our mission is to end child sex slavery through prevention. So all of the children that we take care of were once at risk of entering the sex trade, but now they're safe and free and living as children should, just learning and growing and playing every day. And it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's very admirable. What made you guys start Kingdom Home and what you guys are doing? What made that initiative for you guys?
Okay. Well, I used to work for a similar nonprofit, and they're the ones who kind of have helped us and held our hands through this process. And when they first came to us with the opportunity to start our own nonprofit, it was a kind of obvious to us from the get-go that this is what we were being called to do. It just made sense, and we were just blessed to actually be able to do it, and all the people who have helped us make it happen and all the lives that we're reaching. It's been pretty incredible.
We're so grateful for all the support from the Tigers organization, the city of Detroit, and everyone else who's kind of come alongside and helped grow this thing. And it's like what Ashley said, when that call kind of came to do this, we felt we had to do this. An opportunity presented itself, and we were in a position that we could take it on, and we were thankful that we have all the help behind us, and God just guiding it, every step of the way.
That's beautiful. What made you choose Uganda as the home base? Ashley, I understand you had ties to that place.
Yeah, so I did an exchange program there when I was in high school. So I've always loved the country of Uganda, and always talked to Matt about getting there one day, not knowing how it would unfold. And So when the opportunity came about that there was a children's home in need and it happened to be in Uganda, we knew that that wasn't a coincidence at all, that that was just all a part of God's plan all along.
Wow. Were you guys nervous about the girls getting essential supplies during this time when the country went into lockdown?
Yeah, that was a concern. As you know, the whole world is being affected by COVID right now, and including Uganda, they're just a little behind the United States in terms of when it's kind of reached them. So they had a little bit of warning, but not much before the country went on lockdown. And so pretty quickly, the markets were shut down, and a lot of the just vendors that work on the off the side of the road there, which is usually the easiest, most inexpensive way for them to get their produce. They were shut down pretty early on without warning. So it was a little tougher to navigate getting the funds to them and making sure that they had enough to go to the more expensive supermarkets and things like that. But thankfully, they have what they need and they're being taken care of.
Awesome. And I know this isn't about you guys, but how fulfilled do you feel knowing you're making a difference in so many young girls' lives in Uganda?
You know, I think if we start to feel a little bit fulfilled, our heart's in the wrong spot. You know, we're thankful for the people that have come alongside, that are all part of Kingdom Home, the house parents, the aunties, you know, the guards, drivers, everybody that's part of it. People stateside working hard to just connect people here with people over there. We're thankful for all of them. You know, the house parents and aunties and all. They're in it every single day. They're influencing these children's lives every single day, making an impact where the majority of these children didn't have parents in their lives at the point which they came into Kingdom Home, and now they have a family, and they're the ones that are just molding them every single day, pouring into them, serving their needs and raising them as a family. And it's, you know, they're the heroes, and they're the ones that are, it's cool to see them just interact as a family and grow, you know, day by day.
That's amazing. I love hearing that. And is there a way that people can contribute to Kingdom Home and help out?
Yeah. So where we have our website, kingdomhome.org. There's a few, you know, opportunities to give there, to sponsor a child, or to give generally. But next Tuesday, May 5th is Giving Tuesday, and we're going to have a live Instagram event. It's going to be me and Ashley just starting at 7 p.m. Eastern. And we're going to be just giving updates. We're going to do Q&A, Instagram Live, submit your questions. Just talking about the quarantine, talking about the state of Kingdom Home, where we're going as an organization forward. And we'll just be answering questions about Kingdom Home, baseball, life in quarantine, and at the end also be doing a giveaway. We got some awesome prizes. Got some memorabilia, signed jersey, baseball cards, you know, opportunity to win a Zoom call, just, you know, for like 10 minutes or something, so we got a lot of awesome opportunities in there, and it'll be next Tuesday, May 5th, on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, I know I'll be tuning in. I love what you guys do. It's absolutely incredible, and I'm inspired. Thank you so much for your time, and especially, again, thank you so much for what you guys do for others. I hope you and your kids stay well during this time and enjoy that quality family time.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Carly.
All right. Thanks again. And thanks for tuning into Catching Up with Carly, presented by Meyer. Back to you, Daniela.
Thank you, Carly. That was amazing. It's great to see all the stuff that the teams do in the community. I know we talked about the Red Wings earlier, but Matt and Ashley Boyd definitely making an impact, and what an amazing story they have. And now it's time for our Bet You Didn't Know segment, presented by Motor City Casino Hotel. And I bet you don't know why I've got this crazy hat on for you guys. So let me bring in my co-host, Art and Carly, and we're getting ready for Derby weekend. That's a Saturday, right, guys? I've got my
in
here too. Yeah.
Art, where's your
There we
drink?
go. Carly's. Yeah, come on, Art. Oh,
If I were
that's
drinking,
not fun.
5
the
o'clock
Astros
somewhere.
First of all, you bet you didn't know it is the first Saturday in May is always Kentucky Derby Day. My good buddies over at Woodford Reserve sent me a little hat here, and I'm looking forward to it. I also have another hat too. I mean, just is this really a Derby hat?
I don't know, Art. I don't know if that's a Derby hat. That's like a crikey.
I got this in Charlotte, South Carolina. It was so hot that I needed something, so got it on sale. It kind of looks like it anyway. All right, since it is Derby Day tomorrow, and the Kentucky Derby is something that that I actually really like. When you grew up in Livonia, and when I grew up in Livonia, there was the Detroit Race Course. Northfield Downs was just along the way with the Trotters, and so used to go to Hazel Park. So a little bit of a horse racing fan. So I have 3 little things here, and Danielle and Carly, I'm just going to read a question. I'm going to then give you what the choices are, and then what I want you to do is very, very quickly just tell me what you think, just top of mind. All right?
Okay.
Are you ready? Okay. Which of these famous racehorses never won the Kentucky Derby? Justify, Seabiscuit, or Secretariat?
Oh.
Justify.
I know Seabiscuit. It's the only one I know. Maybe it's a trick question. I'll go with Seabiscuit. This is literally the only horse I know.
All right.
It's a movie.
You know what? Seabiscuit is the only one that never won the Kentucky Derby. You have to be a 3-year-old, and Seabiscuit's career actually kind of a late bloomer, like a left-handed pitcher. So Seabiscuit is the one that had never won the Kentucky Derby. Justify won the Triple Crown in 2018, and then Secretariat, perhaps the greatest racehorse of all time, won the Triple Crown in 1973.
Why
I mean, Secretariat
more than Justify then.
Pardon me?
I said I knew Secretariat, but I did not know between the other two, and Justify was more recent.
Yes.
My only thought process was that Seabiscuit was a movie. I didn't even know that Seabiscuit had actually won before.
Well, at least you didn't think that Seabiscuit was something that was only during Lent or something served at International House of Pancakes or something there, Carly. So that's pretty good.
Thanks,
I'm going to give you a prop. Yeah, really. All right.
I appreciate that one. I appreciate that.
Yeah, really. I know you do. A jockey's silks, which is what they wear, on top of their ride or mount or whatever the proper terms are, based on what? The horse owner, the jockey, or the horse? How do they choose what colors they're going to wear? Basically, their uniform.
The horse? I'll go with C, the horse.
I'll go with A, the horse owner. I don't know.
Jeez, Carly. Yeah, Carly's right. It is based on the horse owner. A horse's owner selects the silks for the rider. Yes. The jockey has no say. And, obviously the horse, I don't even know, our horse is colorblind, but there you have it, whatever your color would be.
Based on something.
I did not know that.
Now, this is what I would say. This is what I would say for you two. I would imagine that if you chose the silks for if you owned a horse, they would be green and white, I would assume, right?
There you go.
The horse would probably be named
Now you're pitching on Art. Absolutely.
I would try to go for something, like orange and gray or something. I've always liked that color combination. I think that would look good.
Interesting, Art.
But
okay.
It is interesting.
When you own a horse, there we go.
See, yeah. Before I go to bed tonight, I lay down and I think, God, if I owned a horse, what color would the silks be for my jockey? In orange and gray is the theme. All right, here we go.
Oh,
this is the third one. Carly, you're doing well. Daniela, you got to pick up the slack.
I know, I'm on a roll.
Now let's go. Yes. Who was the biggest long shot to win the Kentucky Derby? Nyquist, and he was a really long shot because very rarely do they let a human being race. And so Gus was really far behind. But, of course, I'm just American
Goose,
Hero or Monorail.
I'm letting Carly pick first, and then I'm just going to go with one that she doesn't pick.
I'm going to go C just because
think-
A, just doesn't make sense because all I can think about is Gus. B, I know I've heard of this horse, American Pharoah. I don't know Dunrail. I'm going to go C.
And I do actually, I do know that Nyquist is a horse, but I don't remember if it's if he was a. I'm going with it. I'm going with A.
Okay.
Okay, well.
What is it?
All right, Carly, 3 for 3. Danielle, you're over today. Yes. It is Monorail. 91 to 1 Monorail. If you got $2, now this is a while ago. This is even before my time. If you got $2 on the 1913 Kentucky Derby winner, it would have paid you $184.90. 90 cents. American Pharoah, of course, won the Triple Crown. And they'll have that race is going to be shown actually on NBC at 3:45. And then Nyquist was named after Gus Nyquist, the Red Wings Gus Nyquist. His owner's a Red Wing fan. I believe he's from Windsor.
No way.
Nyquist won the 2016 race after posing with the Stanley Cup earlier that morning. So there you have it. And I just wanted to give a shout out to our buddies over at Woodford Reserve. They're going to do this whole interactive thing. And the thing that I'm looking forward to on social media with Unique Derby at Home, it's called. And, they're having a thing at 2:00 where master distiller Chris Morris is going to show you how to make the perfect mint julep. And, I am not a big mint person per se, unless it's a mint julep. And there's a lot of interactive things that they're going to be doing on Saturday. So even though the Derby has been postponed, it's still Derby Saturday this Saturday. And our buddies over at Woodford Reserve, they're making sure that not only are we not going to miss the race itself, but they're going to do a lot of cool interactive things too. I suggest as you're sitting around Saturday, because I used to watch that, believe it or not, because there's all kinds of races from like 2 to 8, whenever it was on. I always watch the whole thing. I love the parade of horses and all that. And so, and the jockeys and talking to the jockeys and, as they're going up into the starting gate and, horse racing, really, really, really interesting. And unfortunately, Daniela, I know that you'll be studying up for next year's Kentucky Derby quiz. And Carly, you've got it down already.
Well, you know what?
Pronounced Monorail's name wrong.
If I could do a quiz about Derby hats and fashion, I think you would go 0 for 3.
Oh,
well,
those are fighting words.
Well, first of all, this is pretty sharp. My Woodford Reserve cap is pretty sharp. I will agree.
There you go. Now now
you look like Crocodile Dundee.
Do I really?
Yeah, you look like you should be going alligator watching or something. Crikey!
Yeah. Well, you know what? You blew it, Carly, because next week I'm going to wrestle an alligator. That was my whole big thing. So
wow. Spoiler after spoiler today, Art.
Big spoiler alert. Yeah, there. I'm not going to do it now. I mean, it's kind of lost its zeal for me. So thanks, Carly.
Sorry, Art.
All right, I just
should definitely tune in.
Like a Hawaiian shirt, wear like a Hawaiian shirt, maybe unbuttoned, and you're laying on the beach with a cigar. That's what I picture when you have that hat on. Okay, but clearly I'm going to be studying my Derby knowledge.
I definitely have.
And I wanted.
I'm just going to say, I definitely have a drink in my hand, if not two. I might be a two-fisted drinker when this baby's on.
Oh.
Hand sanitizer, water, and I'm ready to go.
Oh boy.
A big thank you to Woodward Reserve and Churchill Downs for putting this whole thing on Saturday. You can check it out on their social media pages. A lot going on in honor of what should be Derby Day. And a big thank you to Motor City Casino for being our sponsor for the Bet You Didn't Know segment today and every day on The Word on Woodward. And now, while we've got Carly on here, I know that she's been manning our social media accounts, and there's a lot going on out there, and we're happy to have you guys interacting with us. And Carly, I know that you take a look at all of this stuff all week long, even on days that we're not doing the show. What have you found on social media lately?
That's right. All right. So here are a few things I've seen around Instagram mainly. Let's start with Daniel Norris. So check out these profile shots he took of Gibby for a Third Man Records and Warsik collab a few years ago. He just shared them now with his followers. And also, speaking of Daniel Norris, he has a great arm for pitching, but also a great eye. He's a really good photographer. And he has a new show called The Drip on Tiger's Instagram Live. Every Thursday morning, he has a new guest joining him. And today he had former Tiger and now Atlanta Brave Shane Green on his show to chat. And they had me laughing from the get-go with Shane Green in line at Starbucks. So check it out. Looks like the audio is not working, but they are talking. Shane Green is in line at the drive-thru at Starbucks. He's trying to get a coffee because, as you can see by the name, The Drip, it is about coffee. So kind of a little bit of a play on Coffee with Carly. I see you, Daniel Norris, but it's really cool to see how these former teammates, no matter what teams they end up on, seem to stay buddies. And now let's shift gears over to the Detroit Red Wings Instagram page, where we saw Tyler Bertuzzi getting creative with his workouts. Look at that. It looks like a metal rod and some cinder blocks, possibly. Hey, I'm just happy to see him working out and staying ready. Whatever it takes, Tyler, get it done. So that's really what I've been seeing around social media. But you guys, make sure to send in your questions. I'm looking at them on Twitch, Facebook, Twitter. I'll find them. So ask us some questions, and we'll get to that at the end of the show. Daniela, back to you.
Thank you so much, Carly. We're looking forward to having you back for Let's Socialize later in the show. So guys, like she said, make sure you're sending in your questions on any social media that you have or whatever you're watching on. So just send your questions to her. Carly will find them, like she said, and we will try to answer them at the end of the show. Now we're going to move on to our Downtown Hockey Town segment presented by Labatt Blue Light. And joining us for this segment, none other than Ken Kale, our other favorite broadcaster. Ken, how you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good, guys. And hey, I really enjoyed that horse racing segment. I do have a quick story I want to share to you. I was at the Preakness in 1982. That was the only big 3 race I guess I've ever went to. And I went with my cousins, and obviously they had a party the night before, and they took in, this is when you could take in beer to the race. And we sat on the infield, or actually stood in the infield, and he brought his pickup truck, and he had all this beer with him. I'll tell you what, I didn't see one horse that whole race. Aloma's Ruler won. I didn't even see him the whole day, but I guess we had a lot of fun. So it was a lot of fun there at the Preakness in 1982.
And Ken, we should have had you on for the trivia segment here. I don't know much about racehorse or horse racing, so I did not do very well, as you saw, if you were watching. You're going to have to teach me a thing or two so I can be ready for next year, okay?
You know what? I didn't know anything about silks, as Art was mentioning, or anything like that. I'm more of a trotter and pacer person with the sulkies, the carts. But I always enjoy going down the forum and reading that and trying to figure it out. And even when I do, I don't think I can win anyway. But horse racing is a lot of fun. It's been around a long, long time, and I'm certainly looking forward to Kentucky Derby.
Definitely. And there's a lot of stuff going on Saturday too, like we said. So you definitely will have to check that out. Now let's switch our gears, guys, and talk about the Red Wings a little bit. They had 2 signings just yesterday. And one of those, the first one, Matthias Bromea is how you actually pronounce his last name. And he was playing in Sweden, and he's 25 years old. He's a left winger. And what do you guys really think of this signing? I haven't seen much of him when it comes to playing. But from what I read, he had a really good season last year over in Sweden. So what do you think overall of the Red Wings signing?
Well, when I think of a signing like this, I think of our Terry Panarin, who came in at around 24, 25 years old, and he just lit it up with the Chicago Blackhawks. And, if you can get a player like that can perform like Panarin did in his first year in the National Hockey League, and I know that's a lot of pressure there on Matthias, but you know what? I think it's a good signing for Detroit. He actually is a scoring forward, and he likes to put the puck in the net. I guess he's got a lot of speed and skill from what I've read about him. He works hard, and that's what the Red Wings need. They need somebody that can put the puck in the net on a fairly regular basis. And I guess it came down to two teams. The Vancouver Canucks are really interested in him, and so were the Detroit Red Wings. And I believe he signed here because he thought he had the better opportunity to play with Detroit. And the Red Wings signed him to a one-year deal, which is good because you get an opportunity to look at him for a year. If he pans out great, you sign him for long-term. And if you don't, then you just move on. And that's the thing I like about Steve Yzerman, what he does. He doesn't sign players to long-term deals. You gotta prove yourself. I think Robbie Fabry was a good example of that, where he came in and really paid dividends right away. So certainly Bromea, hopefully he can come in and he can pay dividends right off the hop.
Well, I think it's a really good signing too. I just want to echo Ken. I think that there's been a number of events that I have been to that I've been told that I've been to, and I can't remember. And I think a few of them were actually with Ken. So, but with that said, Bromea is an interesting guy. It's a two-way contract. He's a fast skater. He handles the puck very, very well. He's 6 feet, 183 pounds. He's going to turn 26 in July. What I like about him, he led his team in scoring in the Swedish Hockey League. He was 7th overall in points or 6th overall with 43. So you have nothing to lose. And I know that the Red Wings liked him because, people don't know this, but I try to have lunch with Steve at least once a week. And every time I'd go into his office and, say, where's Steve today? I thought we were having lunch. He was always in Sweden, Steve's in Sweden today. He made these daily trips or something. But I know that Steve, Pat Verbeek, Yuri Fisher, I know they saw him. I know they liked him. And so, where the Red Wings are at right now, it's a one-year deal, two-way contract. So if he can make the team, good. If he can't, he'll go down to Grand Rapids, maybe learn the North American style a little bit, and then maybe come up here and contribute to the Red Wings. So, again, no matter what they do, and Steve's been pretty aggressive, the Red Wings as a whole, as an organization under him, have been pretty aggressive. So I like this signing. I know Vancouver was interested. I heard the Vegas Golden Knights were interested. There were several teams, and he decided to join the Red Wings. And I think probably because he probably looks at this as a very good opportunity for him to see how his game from the European game transitions into the North American game.
Now I want to talk to you guys about Victor Brattstrom a little bit. Now, this is an interesting signing for the Red Wings, and he was a 2018 6th-round pick and a goaltender. We've talked about goaltending for a little while now, and it's something that the Red Wings need to address. But as I mentioned, this is interesting because he may still be playing in Finland when this is all said and done here. That might be where he plays next season. So, Ken, let me start with you. What do you think the purpose of this signing, and what do you think of the future for Brattstrom?
Well, the Red Wings are obviously looking for a goaltender down the road. And like we mentioned before, if you take a goaltender in every draft, sooner or later, you're going to hit on somebody and somebody's going to step forward. And what I really like about Brattstrom from, what I've seen and what I've read about him is the fact that he continues to improve each and every year. He's a lot better last year or this past season than he was a year ago. As you mentioned, he was a 6th-round pick. And sometimes that's where you get goaltenders, and you're not going to get them often in the first 2 rounds. But if you can get that diamond in the rough, then obviously, you got an opportunity with them. And again, like I said, he's a big, tall goaltender. He's 6'6", something like that. He won 33 games, I believe, last season. I like his save percentage. Anytime you're above 910, you're doing something right. And he was at 914. He competes hard. He's athletic. And I think the only thing that he's working on right now are rebounds and positioning after he makes the initial save. And also with big, tall goaltenders, the trouble spot with them a lot of times is the puck that's in their skates and you got to cover up. But I really like the fact that he's improving every year. And what you don't want to see from a prospect is where you sign him, he plays a year, then he plateaus, and he doesn't get any better. But what we're seeing from Bradstrom is that he continues to improve, and that's a good sign for the Red Wings and for the fans.
The Red Wings needed to sign him because when they drafted him, he was over 20 years old. Most European players, if they draft a European player, much like a collegiate player, the Red Wings have 4 years from their draft date. So that would mean like 18, but 19, like till 2021 or so until that draft to sign him. However, because he was over 20, the Red Wings had 2 years to sign him, or he would have been an unrestricted free agent. So obviously, as Ken said, what he was able to do, where he was one of the best goalies in the Swedish Allsvenskan League with Timra IK, that, they liked what they saw. He tweeted out he's going to be playing in the Finnish league when we all begin again, it looks like, but who knows? That could change too. Remember, Mo Seider was going to be in Germany last year, probably most likely in Mannheim, and he was in Grand Rapids. But so it's kind of up in the air. But, he put on, I think on his Instagram, he's playing for a team called Cuckoo. And I mean that, Cuckoo in Finland next year. So I think he's on loan to that Cuckoo team in Finland. And then I think a year from now, he'll probably get a shot in Grand Rapids. And if that doesn't work out, maybe Toledo. But, certainly Kenny hit it right on the head. The Red Wings are looking for a goaltender. Now, I said in the previous segment that, they're going to sign an unrestricted free agent goaltender to help Jonathan Bernier for next year. So whenever that is, again, the season's still on pause, but Bradstrom is a guy that they like. If they didn't, they wouldn't have signed him, and they would have let him go whenever the draft is this year. They would have just let him go to and become an unrestricted free agent. They saw something they liked. They knew they had to put his name on a contract, and they did.
Actually, Daniela, I'm having I didn't hear your question because I don't know if your microphone was muted, so I'm going to defer to Art.
Yeah, no, that was
okay.
me. Let me do. No, it's okay. This was my fault. Let me do this again. That was my fault. One of these days, I'm not going to make any technical errors on this show. I promise you guys. I promise. But the question, what do you think happened?
Don't worry.
What do you think happens with the goalie situation in Detroit? And Art, you touched on this just a little bit. Bernier at number 1. And if next season Howard is gone, who's that number 2 goalie? Ken, I'm going to have you answer that question first.
Well, I just think that the Red Wings are going to look for a goaltender around the National Hockey League. And again, you can speculate all you want, but I guess you have to wait until the season is officially over before you know who are the unrestricted free agent goaltenders that are out there in the league. But, I'm sure the scouting staff of the Red Wings you have a few ideas of who they'd like to pursue if Jimmy Howard isn't coming back. So I guess the answer is we just have to wait and see. And a lot of it's on the line now, just because of the fact that we don't know when the season's going to end. It's on pause right now, but certainly there are names out there. And Art, that's the thing. If Jimmy doesn't come back, it just looks like the Red Wings are going to have to select somebody with some experience, because right now in their system, they really don't have a goaltender, I don't think, that could come in and play as a backup to Bernier next year.
No, I agree with that. And one of the things, you can sit there, and Jacob Markstrom from Vancouver is going to supposedly an unrestricted free agent. However, he's really come on lately. He is a guy that I would think, would he be attractive to the Red Wings? Sure. Would the Red Wings be attractive to him? And Ken, how many times have we seen where you look at the list of unrestricted free agents as of July 1st? Let's just use July 1st because that's always been the date where they become unrestricted free agents. And you sit there, most guys most big heavy hitters, unless they make a great announcement, the player does or his agent does, I would say almost 10 out of 10 times they sign with their club. They're signed, they're inked to a long-term deal. And as Ken said, Steve's in a position right now where he believes the Red Wings are in a position right now where they're not, he doesn't want to give out a long-term deal. You know, unless Connor McDavid comes up and says, I've had a great falling out with the city of Edmonton, either trade for me or I'm going to wait until I'm an unrestricted free agent. I want to come to Detroit. Yeah. Okay. Then Steve, I think, might sign him to a long-term deal, but that's not going to happen. So I think right now he's looking for short-term fixes, a year, preferably a year, probably not. I don't think many guys would sign for a year unless you're Bromia, who's, you know, coming over here to try to prove himself from Europe. But 2-year deal. So, you know, I think the guy that they're going to end up getting, if they can't work something out with Jimmy or whatever, would be a guy like Thomas Greiss from the Islanders and Halak maybe. And, who knows, is Corey Crawford done in Chicago? I don't think so. But, there might be a surprise or two. But I really think that we've got to hold off on speculation because we don't know when the season's going to pick up again. We don't know if these guys are going to be unrestricted free agents come July 1st. I was talking over a scenario with a couple of buddies of mine, and Ken, you'll appreciate this, is that how about they decide the season starts, and this is all speculation on my part, I'm saying this, is that, okay, so the season's picked up, there's a, they're in the playoffs, and let's say July 1st, though, Jacob Markstrom is in the playoffs with Vancouver or something, but the Red Wings make him a deal, and I'm just using him as an example, and they sign him as of July 1st because you can be an unrestricted free agent, although you have to honor your contract. You could actually have a guy who's going to be a Red Wing the next year being playing in the playoffs for a team that he's no longer a member of. I mean, crazy stuff like that could actually happen. So it's fascinating when you think about the big picture and how it might turn out. But then again, none of us really have an idea because, the NHL right now, they're just trying to, they want to kind of open it up and slowly, and they've made some statements, but, and then Dr. Fauci is talking about, well, we might have to get used to it and, definitely no fans. And so it's terrible to speculate at this point because we just don't know. But definitely if they sign one player in free agency, it's going to be a veteran goaltender.
And you know what, just to add to that and add to your point, Art and Daniela, I really believe that you have to have your draft and you have to have free agency at the conclusion of the 2019-20 season because it makes no sense otherwise. And I know we'll touch upon that a little bit from now, but everything's got to take place in the right order, I think. And, free agency, you can't have free agency on July 1st if the Stanley Cup playoffs are going on. I mean, I just don't see how you can do that just because of the scenario that you brought up, Art. But again, at the conclusion of this season, whenever it's going to be, that's when you're going to have, your free agency. And really it puts a lot of pressure, I think, on your general managers because right now I'm sure you have a list of who you want to go after, but on the other hand, you have to wait it out and you're going to be crunched for time. So it's not going to be an easy situation for NHL general managers with the draft and also with free agency coming up.
Ken, are you good at reading lips by any chance?
I think you need to unmute your button there, Daniel.
At that time I wasn't muted, but I hit mute and unmute again. That time I was not muted, but the first time was definitely me. Sorry about that, you guys. Steve Yzerman did talk a little bit on his FSD interview about what the draft situation looks like and what his opinion is about the draft being held before the end of the season. But we're going to have to let you guys watch that on your own on Fox Sports Detroit Facebook. Ken, thank you so much for joining us for the Downtown Hockey Town segment. It's always great having you on with us.
Yeah, great. Have a great weekend, and hopefully we'll see you on Tuesday. And as always, good work, and I enjoyed the horse racing segment. Thanks, Art. Thanks, Daniela.
Thank you, Ken.
You're the best, Kenny. You know that.
And thank you to our friends at Labatt Blue Light for presenting Downtown Hockey Town. Labatt Blue Light, refreshing Canadian Pilsner. Visit your local retailer when safe to pick up some Labatt Blue Light. Now it's time for the Brush Street Beat, everybody. We're going to talk a little Tigers baseball, and joining us to do so is a Michigan native and now MLB insider, John Morosi. John, we're going to be testing your Detroit knowledge here, and I know you've got to be pretty excited to talk some Detroit sports today.
I certainly am, Daniela and Art. Great to be with you, and great to have this show going to keep us all connected, whether it's Tigers or Wings, certainly two teams that have been a big part of my life growing up in Michigan and living here now. So great to be with you today.
Let's talk about the Tigers first off, John. You mentioned kind of the state that they're in right now. A bad season last year, but hey, they've got the first overall pick again in this coming draft. And they've also got some great prospects in the system right now. Just kind of briefly, what is your outlook on what the 2020 season will look like for the Tigers?
Well, Danielle, it's a great question. And certainly the length of it could determine who we see at the major league level. And by that, I mean, I think when things were looking like they were going to be on schedule from a standpoint of a usual 6-month regular season, you could have projected out, well, maybe Casey Mize comes in the second half at some point in time, and does Manning arrive this year as well? I think the way that the season is playing out potentially could compress the amount of opportunity that we're going to see for pitchers to reach the major leagues this season. But I do think we're going to start to see some of that group of prospects that we've heard so much about start to arrive to Detroit at some point in time during the course of the season, again, provided that we see a 4-month regular season, whatever it might end up being. But I think in general that the farm system right now, Daniela and Art, is in the best shape that I can recall it being since 2006, since you saw Verlander and Zumaya arrive and help the Tigers win the pennant that year. This is the best we have seen it since then. One more number 1 overall pick to come, as you mentioned. So the farm system right now is good, maybe even very good, and getting better, I think, here in the next several months.
JP, do you have a feel where the Tigers might go with that first-round pick? I mean, I'm all about Spencer Torkelson, but, I know that they like Austin Martin too, but I don't know how you can pass up a guy like Torkelson who has those power numbers, big hitting first baseman. Cabrera now is basically the designated hitter. I mean, that is the guy, if I were drafting, I would go with, but do you have a feel either way?
I concur with that, Art. I would say if I had to predict today that Torkelson is going to be the first overall pick, and for a couple reasons. Number one, as you mentioned, it's a power bat out of college, very polished. You might compare him in terms of readiness to where Chris Bryant was around this time of his career. Hard to predict and say, well, he's going to be Chris Bryant, but I think that overall polish of the bat, the high level of competition, of course, at ASU, he sees a lot of high-quality pitching in the Pac-12 all the time. So I would say that for Torkelson, he probably is the best pick right now. And plus, aside from the fact that he is close to being a major league ready bat, it's also where the need is. And you hate to say that you're going to take the number 1 overall pick based on need with your particular roster, but it's hard to deny the fact the Tigers have a very pitching-heavy system. And certainly taking Riley Green, he is a high school pick, so a little further away from the major leagues. There is that spot, I believe, in this organization for a close to the majors ready impact bat. And I've mentioned this stat before, Art and Daniela, about the Tigers and the overall history of them over the last 20 years or so, and even longer when it comes to developing position players. It's not been an organization that has had a lot of position players be star level players, arrive to the major leagues as homegrown players, and then stay. The stat that I've mentioned before, the last homegrown drafted developed Tiger position player to make multiple all-star teams with the Tigers was Travis Fryman. That's a long time ago. So I think to find that next generation of player, I really think is important for the Tigers, and Torkelson could be that person.
So we've touched on the prospects that are in the system and what we might do with that first overall pick in the coming draft. But the Tigers actually had some really good off-season signings as well. They've got CJ Cron, they've got Austin Romine, they've got Jonathan Scope and Cameron Maybin that could really add some hitting power to their batting lineup there. What did you make of these additions to the Tigers?
Well, I like the moves, and certainly when you think about Crone and Scope, they played together with the Twins, signed basically the same contract with the Tigers to come to Detroit. Two players that are very familiar and comfortable in the American League. Certainly Romine, same thing. His brother was a Tiger. Austin has played a lot against the Tigers over the years as a Yankee. And I think all four players, really, when you include Cameron there, all respected veteran players who have a lot of experience here around the major leagues. And I think will supply some very solid offense and also just leadership. I think for a young team that's in transition, you need those types of players that have been around, been to the playoffs in every case. All four of those players have done that. So I think there's a lot to like about what experience they bring. The veteran nature of that club, I think, is going to be really important to have as part of that group. But I think Scope and Crone, two guys that you could really see hit 25 home runs or more based on their track record. I know Scope has been an all-star before, someone who I really appreciate a lot. His game reminds me of Uribe all those years ago with the Giants. Somebody that would certainly have a lot of big clutch hits for him is Jonathan Scope. So I think I like the pickups in a lot of different ways and give the team now a new dynamic, some new leadership to layer in there, and we have to see how things play out from there.
JP, Dan Dickerson had on Tuesday's show talked to Michael Fulmer, who's recovering from Tommy John surgery. Depending on when baseball starts, it looks like Fulmer might be ready. Can you talk about if he can make a full recovery, what he would add to, which already isn't a bad rotation? If you look at Matt Boyd, if Jordan Zimmerman can stay healthy, Daniel Norris too. I mean, when the Tigers acquired Daniel Norris and Matthew Boyd in the trade with Toronto for David Price, Norris was the star. I mean, Norris was the guy that everybody was a little bit higher on than Matt Boyd. And then you throw in, certainly Nova, who they got. And, I like Turnbull too. So that rotation could come along pretty nicely, especially if Fulmer's healthy.
It's a great point. And I think, too, in this division, we're seeing some teams that are in a bit of a transitional phase. We'll see what the Indians look like this year, given some of the moves they've made. And so I think overall, you look at the competition, what the Tigers can bring with a rotation, and Fulmer certainly being an all-star caliber pitcher when healthy. Boyd, I would say the same thing. A little bit of a tough second half for Matthew, but I think he'll bounce back this year. I'm with you, Art. I think that you consider where this club is overall and what's going to be asked of this group. When the veteran pitchers arrive and whenever this season begins, we'll have to see, obviously, the developmental time that's lost for the younger pitchers that are probably going to be in Erie and Toledo, mostly Toledo, that really you're asking these veteran pitchers to give you the best they can for as long as they can. Maybe it's 2-3 months, maybe it's longer than that. And so in some cases, there could be the possibility of trades. There could be the possibility of call-ups. So I think that the issue is that eventually the calendar will move forward, Art, and the pitching will get better because the young players are going to develop. So you're not asking necessarily some of these veteran pitchers like a Nova to be a rotation mainstay for 5 or 6 years. That's not really what's being asked of him right now. It's about bridging the gap. And if you think about a healthy Fulmer, Nova with all of his experience, you think going back to the Yankees, what he has been certainly earlier in his career, there's a lot to like about this group. Turnbull, I agree, came on and I thought was very impressive in some flashes last season when healthy, certainly, especially early on in the first half. So I think you combine all of these factors together and you're now at the spot where you don't have to ask 5 people to do something that they've never done before. Just basically do what you've done in the past, whether it's Boyd or Norris, certainly in the case of Fulmer when healthy and Nova as well. Do what you've done before, and then we'll see how the younger players mature. And Skubal is such a promising left-hander. I love his story coming in from Seattle U and what he has done there. I think there's just a lot of really intriguing aspects of these young pitchers that are coming in. So I'm curious to see how things look for the veterans, but then knowing that in the back of our minds, these young arms are not that far away.
I want to switch gears just a little bit because I know that your wife is a hospital medical doctor at U of M and at the VA out in Washtenaw County. She's on the front lines. And the reason JP, you've known me a long time, so follow me on this one. I know that what you do for a living in sports, and we all want to see baseball and hockey and basketball, and we all want to see it come back. But I think you have a very unique perspective because you're in the field of professional athletics for the most part, yet you see what your wife deals with every single day. I'm going to ask you to put on your soothsayer cap here. how do you think this is going to play out? Do you see this returning? I mean, are we in for a real long haul where sports fans are going to have to get used to maybe not going to a venue, or perhaps even, watch a lot of TV? I mean, 16 million people watch the NFL draft. I mean, 16 million on Friday. That's got to give you an indication that there's a craving for it. But how do you think it'll play out? And again, kudos to your wife and all medical professionals. I mean, just wonderful, just a wonderful job. And, I wish her and you and obviously your whole family nothing but the best.
Well, thanks, Art and Daniela, for the question. I appreciate the sentiments too. Certainly, it's been a difficult couple of months here at the house, but also we're very proud and very grateful that when my wife has gone to work, she's had the PPE that she has needed to this point in time, and she's had the support of great colleagues there at the hospitals, and really seems to be taking on a real incredible perspective here to what she's doing every day. And certainly, I think for all medical workers, we know there are fears, there are concerns, but also a real sense of common shared purpose. So I think for me, it's been a lot of resetting things and bringing everything back to its most humble and granular nature, which is for all of us that we're citizens and family members first right now. And then the professional obligations are somewhere down the line. So on a lot of days, my most important job is getting up in the morning, making sure she's got a good cup of coffee ready before she goes to the hospital. And then I begin my day. I'm doing some shows here and there, certainly with MLB Network and radio work as well to keep myself sharp. But then my other obligation is to take care of our daughters. So there's lots of a lot of work at the house with taking care of all three of them and making sure they're learning and cared for. So it's been a juggling act, but it's one that I feel very blessed to have, because it's in support of what my wife is doing at the hospital, which is far more important than what we're doing, at least talking about sports on some level. But also we realize, to your point, Art, that there is something powerful in that connectedness, whether it's the NFL draft or games, whenever they come back, whether they're fans in the stands or not, if they're on TV and there's a way to come together and talk about things that are not COVID-19, which I think has probably been one of my biggest obligations as a husband too, is sort of getting a sense from my wife, okay, does she want to talk about work today or does she not? Because it's a pretty hard emotional thing for her to deal with every day. And sometimes you do want to say, hey, how did everything go? You want to talk about it, or maybe not. Maybe you want to talk about redecorating the house or something totally different that you kind of want to just kind of have a different topic to be able to get into. So I think we're all kind of dealing with that same emotion as citizens and as family members, no matter what our situation is. As it pertains to sports, Art, it's interesting because I will sometimes say, hey, maybe I'll be traveling again to cover baseball in this month or that month. And she'll just kind of look at me like, you're like, John, you realize like what I see every day, and you may need to kind of cool it a little bit. So I'm probably the optimist and she is the scientist. So there's kind of a little bit of a balancing act, I think, for the house in terms of what our conversation is like. But I do think one of the key things that was said in the last couple of weeks was when Dr. Fauci said that he could envision baseball coming back as long as there was regular testing and as long as you didn't have fans in the stands. So I think that when he said that, I think that was really a watershed moment for baseball and for sports in general, that, okay, if it has his blessing, at least from some conceptual standpoint, that there may be a pathway to getting back. So we just take it day by day here at the house, and the girls have given us a lot of joy. There hasn't been a whole lot of, there's like zero boredom over here. I've got three kids to try to educate and feed and try to keep them engaged and happy. So there's been no part of this that's been slow or boring or anything like that. We've been very engaged, busier than ever, and we're just kind of taking that day by day approach. Which, by the way, you really realize that now that we're sort of in this, and it's a very all-consuming life for us all. That those cliches that we hear in hockey dressing rooms and baseball clubhouses about daily focus, day by day, not getting too high or low, all those things that we never want to hear those quotes, but you know what? A lot of them are true. And I think we're all taking that approach right now and being humble about the approach and just enjoying and savoring the joy that we can find in each day.
John, I don't think I could have said that any better myself. Everybody right now is kind of taking this day by day. And so much props to your wife and everybody else that works in the healthcare field that's on the front lines fighting this for us while we get to sit here and talk about sports. I have so much respect for all of them. So a huge thank you to her personally. And John, we're going to have to cut this interview here, but it's been great. I wish we could have you on for like 2 more hours to just take up the whole show.
There you go. Well, Daniela, Art, thank you so much for having me on, and thanks for the kind words. And yeah, please call me anytime, whether it's Tigers, Wings. Always love talking about our teams, and thanks to both organizations and the Ilitch family for all they've done to help Detroit through this time as well. Thank you for all of you for what you're doing.
Thank you, John. Thank you. And a big thank you to our friends at McLaren Health System for presenting Brush Street Beat. They present this episode this week and every week here on The Word on Woodward. Another big thank you to John Morosi for joining us in the show. We've still got a lot planned for you guys in this last half hour. We're going to take your questions. So please, if you're watching on social media, if you're on YouTube, you're on Facebook, Twitch, whatever you're watching on, send us your questions. We want to answer them in our Let's Socialize segment. But first, let's get to the headliner presented by Miller Lite.
Thanks, Daniela. Time now for the headliner, brought to you by Miller Lite. And let's bring in alternate captain for the Detroit Red Wings, former Michigan State Spartan, longtime Red Wing, a veteran Red Wing player. And that, of course, is Justin Abdicator. Justin, thanks for joining us on the headliner. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Art.
I guess what I really want to get to is Feed the Front Lines Detroit, which was a program I know you, Luke, and Dylan, 3 of the 4 alternate captains, got together, joined Mayor Duggan's initiative to provide meals for hospital workers. And actually, I guess it was a conversation with the head team physician of the Red Wings, Tony Colucci, Dr. Colucci, where you fellas figured you really wanted to do something, a team initiative. This is not only the 3 of you, it's the entire team plus coaches. Everybody pitched in, and now you're providing 5,000 meals a day or something to workers.
Yeah, I think we're all really excited to, gather our teammates and do something as a group, as a collective group. It was great the coaches wanted to get involved as well. Just show our support for, all the frontline workers, in the city of Detroit where we play. Show our support, hopefully provide some food. I know they're working long hours. It's a tough job. It's not easy, but just show our support and gratitude for what they're doing. And like I said, just really excited that we could do it as a collective group.
If you want to donate to this very worthy cause, it's feedthefrontlinesdetroit.com, a website. The Red Wings are doing their part as always. And I wanted to ask you, Justin, were you surprised when Tony came back to you, and even though they could use everything, but said really providing meals is what we really, really need, because you've already done that?
Yeah, you know what? I think when my wife and I had done it for the hospital at St. Joe's and Pontiac, we saw the impact, and we heard from a lot of people directly, indirectly, how grateful they were, and how much they appreciated our support. So, after doing that and having the experience, and talking with Tony, thinking that was the best way we could show our support, I think it made the most sense. And like I said, I think it's important for us as a group of guys. Everyone was on board and excited to give back and just show our support. This is a crazy time we're going through, and they're the workers that are making us feel safe, and putting their health at risk at times, especially to start when we didn't have enough supplies and masks and those type of things. But I think we're finally getting abundance of those, which is great. But I think with the food, it can give them something new, something fresh. And I think the other end of it too, which we are excited about, is to support local restaurants and help them during these times.
Well, really, that's right. I don't know. I'm going off the top of my head. I think at least 2,000 metro area restaurants are involved in this program and providing meals. And I mean, it really is a worthy cause, and just a great job. I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, the Red Wings have a huge initiative through the Red Wings Foundation. You're always there. I mean, I've said this before, publicly. I mean, you're one of the fellas that give back to this community, and no matter what. And I know I've asked you, and I don't mean to embarrass you here, but where does it come from? I mean, your heart's as big as can be. I
think it comes from the family, how I was raised. My parents, obviously knowing the impact we can have, just enjoy putting a smile on people's faces, know the positions we're in, and, whether it's school visits, hospital visits, these type of donations, just really enjoy, being around people and giving back and seeing the type of impact we can have. These people support us, on a daily basis. And, we just want to feel like we're connected with our community. I think the Red Wings have done a great job for, way longer than I've been on the team of having that type of community impact. And I just want to do my part.
I want to go back to what you did for St. Joseph Mercy Oakland, where you teamed up with the Detroit Wing Company and provided, I think it was, I got 50,000 on my head, but I mean, you provided meals for an entire day and night shift. And I know, and they say behind every great man, there's a great woman. I know your wife, Julie, is very, very instrumental in this. Can you talk a little bit about what she has brought to this initiative and getting everything kind of started?
Yeah, she was spearheading a lot of it. She was on the emails, on the calls. We were on multiple calls, trying to sort this out and figure out timing, and with the Detroit Wing Company, when we had to get the meals delivered, how logistically it was all going to work. And I think we were both just very excited to show our support and to feed the frontline workers, show our gratitude. Like I said, we've talked about it with what we did as a team, but a lot of the same stuff, just the amount of hours they're putting in. And we thought this would bring some excitement, some new food, whatever type of amount of money or amount of meals. I think just showing we just wanted to show our support and do something that hopefully they enjoyed and they liked. And, like I said, also supports the Detroit Wing Company. And, these restaurants are going through tough times and trying to make it as much as possible, on takeout and deliveries and those type of things. So, also supporting a local restaurant as well. I think it was a win-win in both situations.
Well, I know that when you contacted the Detroit Wing Company, that they were more than willing to go on board and they were going to donate the food. But you said, no way, just an abdicator. The abdicators are paying for this food, which really just goes to show your sense of community, and also how this is these are trying times for all of us. And even though it was gracious by Detroit Wing Company to donate the food, you wanted to make sure that they were going to get something out of it as well. Which I really applaud you on that.
Yeah, well, thanks. It didn't even cross my mind that we wanted to get anything for free. I mean, it was obviously, a great gesture by them. Shows, Gus and what they, how they want to support as much as they can to donate. But they're doing a lot on their own as well. And we want it didn't even cross my mind that we wanted to take any type of meal for free. We wanted to make sure that we were supporting them as well as supporting the hospital workers. So like I said, it was a win-win, and we were really excited to do it, and saw a lot of great pictures, and got a ton of great feedback. But it's during these tough times we wanted to talking with my wife, going back and forth on a few different things. We thought this was one of the best ways we could show our support.
Do you keep in constant contact with the fellas? Do the Red Wings have like a team meeting?
We keep in contact, especially with what's talked about with our PA Players Association, and kind of steps and guidelines moving forward. And then when you start hearing rumors and articles come out, none of them. It's more just people talking. There's nothing concrete out there. You're seeing different schedules. You're seeing different things, come out saying when we're going to be back, but nothing's agreed upon. We're just, there's a lot of ideas, a lot of really good ideas. It's just a matter of when we're going to be allowed to get back and play. So we do have a group chat that, we'll share messages and and ideas and talk and make sure everyone's doing well and staying healthy. And, I mean, I've been talking to, a number of guys over the weeks too. And, some guys have questions. Glenn and I are reps for the PA, so we'll answer a lot of questions directly to guys if they are wondering about whether it's, going home, are they allowed this, this was earlier when we got postponed, but could they go home, or what the types of rules are. And more or less everyone's just kind of chomping at the bit and anxious to get back playing, but we're just kind of wait and see approach right now.
Well, Justin, I've said this, I've told you this, and I tell everybody. I mean, you, good times, bad times, you're always out there. You're always in the community. You're always doing something, and you're a real stand-up and accountable guy. And for somebody who's done something like I've done this forever, I've been going into the Red Wing room now for like 30 years. God, I can't believe it's been that long. But but really, you're definitely one of the guys that you get it, you understand, and your accountability and responsibility, and you really bear the weight very, very well, because I know, sometimes it's difficult. Yeah, and you're definitely one of the guys, man. I mean, I really appreciate everything you do, not only for the team but for our community. I know you're from the state of Michigan. For some reason, you ended up going to Michigan State. I still don't understand that.
Hey, we won a national championship. I think it worked out pretty good, Art.
Well, you won the national championship. I mean, obviously you've had a lot of great memories, and I'm no better than the birth of Jackson, certainly. But winning that national championship, scoring that goal, even me, a hardcore Wolverine, got out of my seat and was just so happy when the Spartans won that national championship. I truly mean that.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, Art. That's very nice of you. It's been some challenging times for sure, especially coming in, and even throughout my career. I've been very fortunate to be on a lot of good teams and do a lot of winning. And, this last stretch has been very challenging, and you learn a lot about yourself. And, you got to, you really just got to continue to, it's a next day mentality. And we're professionals. We're paid to do our job, and you got to come to work. And, as much as possible, you got to keep that positive attitude. And I think we have a great group of guys, a great group of young talent in the room. And, the organization has done a great job of drafting and finding a lot of good young players over the years. And it'll pay off. We're in a spot that, hey, we're gonna look up from here and look forward to getting back in the playoffs. Because, we tell guys all the time, especially the younger players that haven't experienced playoff type games. There's no better experience, no better feeling than playing in front of a full crowd and hearing the "Let's Go Red Wings" chants and the excitement around the city. There's nothing like it, nothing like Hockey Town. So we're working, and it's like I said, it's been tough, last few years, but we'll get back there and hopefully be raising Stanley Cup soon.
No, I certainly agree with that. Justin Abdicator, associate captain or alternate captain for the Detroit Red Wings. Thanks for joining us, fans. If you want to get involved in this initiative, it's feedthefrontlinesdetroit.com. Red Wings are very much involved. And Justin, thanks for being on the Headliner. I really appreciate it. I do enjoy talking to you. Maybe I talk to you a little too much sometimes, and but and, yeah, and I love talking Big Ten sports, as you very well know, and I know that that you do too. So I appreciate it. I'm glad everyone is safe and healthy in the family. Keep up the good work on the ice and also in the community. And again, Justin, thanks for joining us on the Headliner.
Yeah, thanks, Art. It's always a pleasure talking to you. I know we have a good rivalry going, and I enjoy that. Enjoy going back and forth with the Michigan State. But yeah, hope everyone's staying safe out there, all the fans, community of Detroit, the states, and fans everywhere. We'll get through this and get back on ice.
Well, yep, I certainly agree with you. Again, Justin, thank you very much. That's Justin Abdicator, the alternate captain of the Detroit Red Wings, on the Headliner, brought to you by Miller Lite, the original light beer with great taste and only 96 calories, available for delivery. And Daniela, what a great guy. I think you can tell Justin is top of the line in my book.
Art, I think he is top of the line in anybody's book. What an amazing, amazing thing that him and Julie are doing too. You got to give Julie credit there too. Justin and Julie Applicator do so much for the community. And it speaks to local businesses too, being so willing to help out during these tough times. So yes, great to talk to Justin. Art, I do want to know though, and I know he is in on this little rivalry too, but are you ever going to stop asking him why he went to Michigan State?
No, I never will. I never will. You know, a real quick story is that the Red Wings have these, you know, the college hats, really the theme nights. Great thing that the Red Wings have. And, you know, Danny DeKaiser has 3 or 4 Western Michigan hats. And I was talking to Justin about it one day. Go, man, you know, DeKaiser, that hat's way too clean. And Justin goes, yeah, he goes, what is it? I go, well, I finally asked him. He has 3 of them and he rotates them, you know. And he goes, well, man, he goes, I wore mine. Mine's like worn out. I don't have one. So, you know, I talked to a couple of the Red Wing officials and see if I could get him, you know, a hat. And he and Tara Hirose were given Red Wing hats, you know, the Michigan State Red Wing college caps. And so the Red Wings went on a trip. I wasn't on that trip, and I was just waiting and waiting and waiting. About 10 days later, the Red Wings are back, and Justin's there. And I go right up to him, and I go, hey, did you get your hat? And he goes, yeah. He goes, I did. He goes, thanks a lot, Art. I appreciate it and all that stuff. I go, no thanks necessary. I'm always looking out for my little brother. And he looks at me and goes, you called me little brother? Are you serious? And I just started. I was laughing so hard that he couldn't be mad at me because I enjoyed it. And then a couple of other our social media people, Stacy Burlingame and Andrew Kristoff, were saying he was waiting 10 days to say that to you. You know, he just had it built up. And so when I said it to him, you know, good sport, he was laughing about it. So, you know, he's always fun. And look, I mean, he's had some tough years on the ice. He knows that. But when I said brings it, I think that he's very accountable. You've been in that room, and it's been some trying times for him personally and for the team, but he's always there. He's answering the tough questions. He doesn't shy away from it. So I have enormous amounts of respect, I think, as you can tell, for Justin Abdicator. I really do.
I do too. And I feel for him with all of your Michigan State jokes because you're always surrounded by Spartans, Art. So I don't know if you'll ever get away from that. So let me bring in the other Spartan, Carly Johnston. Carly, it's time for Let's Socialize, presented by AAA. Yes. And now at least it's more balanced now. I'm always with this Wolverine. It's never good, right, Carly? We know we always need Spartans together all the time.
He's always trying to get those Wolverine jabs, but they can't get through our Spartan armor.
Exactly. So I know you've been manning the social media accounts, Carly. What do you got for us for the Let's Socialize segment?
That's right, Daniela. It is time to socialize. We had questions on Twitch and Facebook today. Let's start with this comment by E.C. Clark. He wants to know, Daniela, how do you think the Wings will finish this year if the season resumes? So we'll say when the season resumes. But Daniela, take it away. What do you think?
Well, see, this question is obvious. It's a little tough to answer this question because we all know that the Red Wings are not making a run for a playoff spot. That's just not what's in the picture for them. And they have a tough remaining schedule. And we've been talking about that really for a couple of weeks before the season was even paused. They were playing playoff caliber teams all the way through the end of the season. They still play Washington twice. They still play Tampa Bay twice. They play Boston, Vegas. There are so many playoff caliber teams. So I really think what they have to focus on for the rest of the season is A, playing spoiler, and B, playing for pride, playing for themselves, saying that they can show up every day and that they can compete with these teams. I can't tell you they're going to have a great record to finish out the season because these playoff teams they're hungry for points. They want to make sure that they're finishing in the top spots. And that's just how the rest of their schedule kind of works out. So I really think they should focus on coming to every game with a clear mindset and just like, it's a new game. It's a new game. Let's not look at the end goal and the end result, but let's win this game, win this period, which is something that, like I said, we've been talking about for a long time this season.
Completely agree. But I will say the Red Wings have in the past few seasons finished out the season oddly strong after having a pretty rough record there. Like last season, Art, you can attest to this. They really finished with a good record for themselves.
Right. Well, I think they won, 9 out of their last 13 games or something like that. I think it's an interesting question. I think if they come back, and they're a pretty young team, and, and Zadina should be healthy, so he'll be back. Obviously that top line of Bertuzzi, BT, Anthony Mantha, and also Dylan Larkin was really coming on. And, they have something to play for. If the season comes back, again, speculative, or when it comes back and they're ending up playing, that murderer's row schedule that they have, they have pride not only in themselves and representing Detroit and in that jersey, but they're going to give it their all because they are playing teams that are on the cusp for playoffs. I think, unfortunately, there's only one team that has officially, I think, been eliminated from the playoffs, and that's the Red Wings. And legitimately, out of the 31 teams in the National Hockey League, 24 of them have a real legitimate shot at making the playoffs. So, and only 16 do. So it's important. And I think that's why you're seeing the NHL really would like to get this season done to be completely fair to everybody. Well, the Red Wings are going to have a big say in that if they keep the schedule as it currently is. And, the Red Wings have pride. They're young. They're playing for next season. Steve has a very watchful eye. He's all over the place. He's at every practice. He's at every game. He's taking notes too, he and his staff. So I would expect if they, when they come back, the Red Wings are going to give it their all. They're all trying to stay in shape. And again, I think they're a little bit of a younger team, younger legs. I know, speaking from experience, it takes a little bit longer maybe to get the old body going the older you get. So, they could be in pretty good shape and make a little mini run here.
All right. Our quick answer here so we can wrap things up. A Tigers question on Facebook. Chris Pame wants to know, who is the best Tigers prospect out there?
Well, I think, you would have to probably go with Casey Mize at this point because the number 1 overall pick, and he's somebody that we've heard about. And certainly, with somebody, depending on when baseball starts in the season, where his development is at, that we could see get a shot. Matt Manning's another one that I'm really interested in looking at. As far as positional players, although I know JP just said John Paul Morosi that he might because he was drafted right out of high school. But Riley Green, you're going to hear me talk about this ad nauseum. If they can catch a break on a player, meaning a guy kind of comes out of nowhere, suddenly, like, Dylan Larkin makes the Red Wings at 19. If Riley Green can somehow just prove that he's worthy and he's made it and earn his way up, and, maybe it won't take a couple of years and can come in and be that 5-tool player, the Tigers' everyday positional player that they could need, that's the guy that I'm really looking for.
All right, awesome. And to wrap things up, let's talk about the Red Wings playing their virtual showdown between the Detroit Red Wings and rival Colorado Avalanche on Detroit Red Wings social media. Of course, the Red Wings came out on top with Igor Larionov scoring twice in 30 seconds, and our guy Steve Yzerman scoring the 3rd goal, and Mike Vernon totaling 30 saves in the game. That was definitely fun to watch with all those alumni and legendary players going head-to-head against the Avs. We had everyone from Lidstrom to Gordie Howe. I mean, that was pretty cool to watch.
I know Art is probably really happy that Steve Yzerman scored one of the 3 goals in that game. But Larionov, he's been getting some Twitter love too, especially from his son, right? He's seeing him score these sweet goals in real games and virtual games.
Igor Larionov the second was definitely active on Instagram, commenting on all of his dad's goals. Art, sorry about that.
No, that's okay, Carl. I was just going to say, Igor Larionov, because he played in, the Soviet hockey system back in the day. He's one of the best players ever of all time, one of the best players in the entire world. By the time he got to the NHL, maybe his skill set was not where it was when he was a little bit younger, but he proved how worthy he is. He's just a great player, scored a lot of big goals. I believe because of what he did to the Russian Ice Hockey Federation, the way he stood up for them, to them, he's a modern day hero. He's a living hero. I know we talk about heroes, but what he did coming from an oppressed society and, kind of essentially staring them down. That's Igor Larionov. And, I love him. I know I keep saying it, but, he gave me the best quote of all time. when I said, why did you hate us? Why did the Soviets hate us when we were growing up? And he goes, well, we were told, why did you hate us? Because you thought I hated you. I thought you hated me. He goes, Art. He goes, that's all politics. He goes, we're all made from the same material, and I live by that creed every single day, thanks to Igor Larionov. So big goals. The triple overtime game in Carolina. He scores. And he really solidified it. When you think about it, those Red Wing teams, when you look up the middle, Steve, Sergey, Igor, and Chris Draper, I mean, you got to be strong up the middle, as they say. It does not get better than that.
Absolutely. Well, I just wanted to give a shout out to all the fans for interacting with me on social media today. It was very fun. So Daniela, take it away.
Thank you so much, Carly. It's always great to have you joining us, and we will definitely be seeing you soon. Keep manning all those social media accounts you're doing. An awesome job.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And thank you to our friends at AAA as well for bringing us Let's Socialize. AAA says thank you with free roadside assistance for first responders and healthcare workers fighting to defeat COVID-19. You protect us by going to work every day. Let AAA protect you on the way there and back. Well, Art, once again, we're coming to the end of our show here. But one thing, we got to talk about this a little bit, and we touched on it a bit in that segment with Larionov and the 97-98 Red Wings teams. Last night, we got to watch the Red Wings raise that 97 Stanley Cup. And tonight, we get to watch them raise it again, the back-to-back 98 Game 4. That's tonight. And then tomorrow, we can watch 02, and Saturday, we can watch 08. Art, I would say that's a pretty good weekend.
Oh, wow, without question. You throw in, a little bit of a Kentucky Derby, and, you've got the Red Wings winning these cups. We need pick-me-ups at this time. And obviously, watching these games, you get back there, you sit back in memories. I know I talked about it, but, you really appreciate, not that you forget, but sometimes your memory fades a little bit. But when you watch these games, it renews not only your feeling and why you're such a huge, Detroit sports fan, but how great some of these players really, really were and how they stepped up at the biggest moments to ensure that, people like us would have lifelong memories for what they were able to accomplish. So it's just wonderful to watch.
And through Saturday, we get to watch the Red Wings. And then starting Sunday, we get to watch the Tigers with Game 5 of the 84 World Series. Again, that one's on Sunday, May 3rd. And you can see here the rest of the games that Fox has set to go through May 17th. But we talked about this a little earlier too, because these are so much fun, Art. The Tigers and Fox Sports Detroit have expanded their coverage, and they're going to be covering some of the 2012 season along with some all-star games. So that's a lot of baseball to watch. And I am so excited that we're going to basically go all the way through May with some games to watch. And like you said, there's some great ones that they're showing, a couple no-hitters that'll be in there, and all-star games are always fun.
Right. Depending on how it plays out, we really don't know, but it'd be great. We got all these primers, all these great games, and, maybe hopefully in some way, shape, or form, maybe, sports start to pick up in June, and, we'll be all set. We won't miss a beat thanks to all these vintage games that we're able to watch.
Definitely. Again, there's another look at all of the expanded coverage for the Tigers. And that's all we got for you guys today. But next week's Word on Woodward is going to be just as great. We're going to have Jack Morris, Jeff Blashill, Matt Manning, Joe Valeno. The list goes on. That's a really exciting week of the Word on Woodward. So make sure that you are tuning in every Tuesday and Thursday at noon. And of course, right when you sign off with us here, Hockeytown Trivia, 2 p.m. You got to go on the District Detroit app. Clearly, I will not be joining because you guys got to see my trivia skills today. Not very good. I will not be joining in, but you guys definitely have to. It'll test your Hockeytown knowledge, and you'll even win a cool prize if you come in first place. We'll mail that out to you. So Hockeytown Trivia beginning at 2, right after we sign off here. Art, as always, thank you for joining me today. It's so much fun hosting with you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I just want to pass my apologies to Steve Eiserman. Sorry, Steve. We ran out of time. Maybe next week.
Art talked too much. Imagine that.
Yeah, really. Yeah, really. That's an anomaly for sure.
I'm just messing with you, Art. Great show today, and thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Get over to Hockey Town Trivia.